Here,
Bob's your uncle.
I guess this. I'm actually the mystery guest. I'm like Hal in 2001: Space Odyssey. I kind of blink when I talk. Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
this is
it's
scary. All right.
it's
Okay.
more like a handicap max headroom, but we'll take it. Hal.
Okay. Well. Okay. All right. I'm out. I know where
Brett,
I'm at with
go
the
manage
peace.
the chat.
See, I'm holding up my fingers with the peace symbol. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. See ya.
Why I ought it with my finger. You. Oh, the kids these days and their rock day.
Tobe, how's it going?
Good. I'm just turning off my Face ID on my phone so it doesn't look at me the whole time. I don't want to get LiDAR scanned.
Hmm.
Make
I see.
things
I see.
difficult for me. Goop.
What are you wearing? What is that? Is that a meadow patch?
Yes, it is, in fact, the Meadow Project patch. Cheers to the Meadow.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Hudson
Trey Hudson's research
with his super
area.
secret clearance background. And there's many more people involved with that project, and I can't remember their name.
Mm, perfect.
But cheers to that.
Well, read his book and go down that rabbit hole.
Well, we had a big week, and we're kind of still getting over it. There was a lot of traveling under our belt, and we captured a lot of footage. In fact, you'll be privy to some of it down the road from me for a new episode of Olympic Strange Days. But Jill, what did you think of heading to Baker City, Oregon?
Well, for us, we go out to Baker City more often than not. Now, I'll admit, over the last year or two, we haven't been out there as much, but it really is our home away from home. And we always set up camp at the Geyser Grand Hotel. And last week, we actually rolled into town a day early for some snowboarding up at Anthony Lakes, and it was a bunch of fresh snow, absolutely perfect. Brett went ahead and did a few runs. I hung out in the saloon because I was so tired. I was at that point where I know myself well enough that I was gonna just completely get injured and just eat it down the mountain. So I sat it out. And you're on mute, by the way. So
Yeah, I just didn't want my glass hitting the desk here. Proceed.
oh. So yeah, we rolled in a day early, a lot of snow. I did get a little bit worried because Thursday night it was like a little winter wonderland on Main Street, and it kind of carried over to the morning, but it melted off, and I think there was some hesitation travel wise because a lot of people were following the weather report and there were conflicting reports and not. But you know what? At the end of the day, I thought it was the perfect turnout. It was a nice, intimate, tight group. We really got to have a lot of one-on-one time and talking, and really kind of going down the rabbit holes.
Yeah, there was an intimate gathering there of kind of some familiar faces, really. It was kind of like an insiders club, and towards the beginning, we didn't quite know who was going to show up. I know we were doing some advertising across the street, mentioning it to a few people. There's a lot of broken promises made at the bars, apparently, and people saying they're coming. But indeed, it was mainly the people that had tickets already. And so it was a kind of a smallish room. It really couldn't have handled, 50 to 100 people would have been weird, I think.
Yeah,
So
it
it
would have
was
been
smallish.
weird. No, but it was perfect. If it was more of a gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. It wasn't a conference by any stretch.
Right.
I don't think we knew what to call it, but it was a gathering, and I think the best part for me was when we did that round table on Sunday, and we just all pulled up seats and just kind of debriefed.
Yeah, I wish I had some clips queued up, but we didn't go live for that, did we?
No.
On your end. Okay.
No. And I just want to say, so going live, that was a decision Brett made last Thursday while we were doing the live stream from the room. He's like, you know what? We'll go live for members. And then it's like, we'll just go live for everyone. And folks, if you did tune in, I swear we did a whole tech rehearsal, dress rehearsal the day before. Everything was working perfect. And blah, blah, blah. We're in a historic hotel. The bandwidth was not fantastic. I don't know. I think it is the weekend. Everyone was using the Wi-Fi or something. But we did have some audio problems. We did have some problems with the stream, but we did our best. We tried to give you something so we could
And
have
I
you
was
there.
totally unaware. It looked like it was going swimmingly, but if you can read lips, it was a total success. Like if you were hearing impaired, you master of reading lips. This is like it made a lot of sense to you. So go back and talk to those people. But yeah, it was like, boy, should we go through the list of people that spoke there and kind of do bullet points?
Yeah, I mean,
We
I
started
think
with
we started with Ashley,
Ashley
who
Stinnett from A Flash of Beauty.
Ashley set the tone and the foundation for the weekend. I think her presentation, she knocked it out of the park, and I just wish that we could have gotten the live stream going right on time. So we missed her opening, but I don't know. Maybe we can do a recap or something.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, what did you think about that? That was pretty
Well,
amazing.
everyone's shorthand. I mean, you're Jill. It's not like I call you Ja, but Ashley, I call Ash. So Ash stepped up. She has a really good, formidable presence. Like you feel when Ashley takes the stage. She's got a good use of her diaphragm, and she projects. I wonder if she has vocal training, and she's like a really beautiful woman too. On top of it, and she's just giving you these really counter culture, counter worldview bullet points that are smacking of like esoteric
Mm-hmm.
um, literature and legends, and uh, there's almost a cautionary um, way of that she's saying, move forward, definitely move forward. Inquiring minds want to know. However, there are these other things out here, and let's talk about those other things and actually admit they exist. And so she talks about the evil empire. Well, I've
Mm-hmm.
never been to a Bigfoot conference where the word evil is really used, let alone the evil empire coming in at a group that's inquiring minds. But pretty much, and you tell me if I'm right, is that my takeaway was, and Ashley, you can chime in too, is that the evil empire basically is the counter narrative trying to stop the truth. In this case, we're talking about disclosure and what our ultimate purpose is here, looking into said phenomena of these mystery schools. And if they can stop us, maybe they can limit our natural ability to kind of seize our power and overcome them. And so that was really refreshing to say, because she pretty much just said they're not powerful. Like they're good at tricking you and appearing big and strong and just like, you can't stop us. We're Big Brother. We're the evil empire. In this case, the state, right? The feds, the big
Yeah.
panopticon over the umbrella state that Henry talked about,
Mm-hmm.
right? The definitely Henry dropping a bomb goes into way more detail about this. So that was encouraging to see, and I think it caught a lot of people totally off guard. Like I told her that afterwards, just like you were definitely speaking above a lot of people's pay grade, but you didn't lose anybody, and so
No, but I think it
that was
opened
cool.
so many doors.
Yeah.
What Ashley had to say really opened up doors for conversations that would happen throughout the weekend. And that was really cool.
Speaking of doors, I just opened one. It happens. So if you hear a chicken, it's me. Um, all right. So next up, we had was it James or was it Jeff Rohn?
I think it was Angelique Benham. And
Angelique.
Angelique, I really love the fact that bless her heart, she was losing her voice. So she was trying to soldier through with her voice going out. If you had a chance to watch her presentation, if you haven't, go back and watch it. Right now it's in the members section. We might take it down and clean it up and cut out some of the little tech issues. But she really talks about how how when she's out in the field, when she's doing research, how she really relies on intuition and leaning into like the intuitive and feeling really connecting to the earth and the land, which I think is such an important reminder for everyone.
Yeah, no, I've only seen her speak once, and then I found her video. Now, if you haven't heard Angelique Benham's story about her lakeside in a boat, having experience with, I don't know, it sounds like more than a Sasquatch. It sounded more like a hybrid of some kind that also was Sasquatch. Like it was, if I remember correctly, presented as like an adult male human and very different looking. But it's an incredible encounter, I believe, from Washington State. And so, absolutely, it was an incredible opportunity. A lot of people didn't get a chance to see. You can check her out, her old stuff.
Yeah,
Is there
I'm just
is there
looking
some
at
live
the
wires
chat.
on here that we need to take on? Do we just
Yeah,
need?
what's good? I don't. Who's Chris Evergreen? Tobe is a liar. Flash of Beauty is fake. I've met all of them, and they are in it for the money, not truth or fighting out about this subject.
As, as I just cleaned my palate from my discounted meat section from Safeway, Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
No one's getting rich here. Trust
Mhm.
us. So
Well, to that point, just to bring up where this is probably coming from, we're going to get into it later, but it has to do with this footage that was brought up last week on Olympic Strange Day. So I think that's the energy, and maybe we'll
mm,
see more of that pushing through. But let's come back to that. And Chris, I
yeah,
encourage you to stay around. Maybe we can change your minds. Maybe I can have a Coors banquet with you later, and then we can go out in the
that's all
chicken
we
coop
can
and figure it
afford.
out. Right. So let's talk about. It was, I believe, it was James Zubsky that was next.
James Shupsky from Margie's Outdoor Store. Yeah, and you're on mute. What's up?
Well, I was going to let you finish.
Oh no, I was
I'm
just saying yes. You know,
okay.
it was James.
Well, do you want to go in? I'll go into detail here. So James runs the Margie's Outdoor Store in Benham, Washington, which is, you sneeze and you miss it kind of town right on the other side of the now $2.75 bridge in Hood River. What the heck? And so you cross the Columbia Gorge and you go into Benham, which is neighboring Skamania County, Mount Adams, East Eddy Ranch, and Horse Thief Butte. So this like is supercharged with crazy stories. And James, I'm telling you, man, like there was some. Ashley was really good. She's a gifted presenter. Like you want to hear more, but there's something about James. It's just like, oh, he's like a wise sage. Like this guy, you know, I could picture him like in his 70s, really bringing in the grandkids. Just like another story, Uncle, Grandpa Zubsky. Because he's got all the stories, man, and they're crazy. They're stuff that a lot of you never heard. And his background working for the Wizards of the Coast, and now it's called Magic the Gathering. The
Mhm.
biggest board game, like his marketing background is crazy. So if you know anything about D&D, card playing games, role playing games, the old 12-sided die move, or Stranger Things, and what's going on with this game, Magic the Gathering. I mean, if you have the cards, first of all, they could be worth a fortune. I've watched them get sold in the last 2 years, and some are worth several $1,000s. So people love this game. And James, his store is like an homage to fantasy and to wonder and to not only cryptids, but to the craziest cryptid of all, which is this hybrid black cat with a primate face. And to think that this actually exists, it changes the game of what is possible because these encounters are just as convincing as Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I love that Margie's is kind of like this. Well, a paranormal reporting center, but also kind of like a clearinghouse. Like we have Bigfoot, we have UFOs, we've got Clicket Hat ape cats, we've got reptilians. You want it, we got it.
Well, and James, I mean, he's given us a one-on-one. He's got like a debriefing room next to his store, but it's not just James, it's employees. So I
Mhm.
stopped there because I was filming, and I was running a little bit late. We'll talk about what happened to my eye. It's kind of embarrassing. And so as I'm racing to, meet you guys in Baker City, I'm like, I gotta stop and binge, and I gotta film some of the store employees. So James is like passing me in his research vehicle, which has got like a giant purple cat on it and like a
Yeah.
snorkel just in case he goes through water. And
It's
he's
like
ready to go.
Ghostbusters, but different. It's
Yeah.
like the Ghostbuster, yeah.
Right. He just needs. So James leaving, the store owners are there, and I end up meeting a First Nations woman that was she had to be under 21, and she had a child with her. I don't know if that was her brother. And they went into specifics about the Warm Springs tradition of looking into Sasquatch, in particular, her grandmother. And she's like, my grandmother is still on the reservation. She doesn't even speak English. Like, I have to translate. She still speaks the traditional language. And she went into some detail. But the point is, I got to get in touch with James because he knows everybody in town. And I didn't get her name. So these are the kind of people that show up there. And if you ever get a chance to not only follow up on James, who's often on Coast to Coast, just type it in, Bingen Outdoor Post, and you'll find out more about James. It's an incredible area.
Absolutely. So then I'm trying to think. So after James, is that when we broke for lunch? We came back, and then we kind of changed the format. We just kind of all pulled up. We pushed the tables together. We like all rounded up in the middle of the room, and Jeff Rohn, he shared his experience and encounters that ranged from Sasquatch to UFO abductions and a little of everything else.
Yeah. Roan is he's quite the guy. He's an experiencer to the nth degree with a multitude of I said fantasy. I didn't mean that. I was still thinking of Jeff or James. But he's got a multitude of sightings, including abductions and interactions. And there's this weird little moment where he finds out other family members have been hiding their own secrets. And it's just like, what the heck? It's a funny part of getting to know Jeff. And so if you get a chance to ever hang out with any of the people we met here, they're all extremely self-deprecating, affable, good time people. And that was the whole vibe. There was no really tight wads there. You know what I mean? Like nobody that's like, oh, that guy's, twisted up a little bit. There was none of that vibe. And Jeff Rohn is not like that at all. So pretty incredible.
And then last but not least, you gave a knockout presentation. And I just want to address, I saw Daryl Adams in the chat. Daryl, I still need to I need to gift you a membership so you can get in there and watch Tobe's presentation, because so much of it involved you.
Come on there, Daryl. You know my man. You always being. I got your name tattooed on right here the other day. It says DA. And so I'm all about Big Adams. We just talked the other day. So hope you're doing good still, buddy. So yeah, I gave a little talk, and was there any news that broke? Well, we stayed away from the elephant in the room because things were unfolding, kind of a little bit pointed at me, a little bit pointed at this channel, a little bit pointed at Cliff Barrickman of all people. Mm-hmm. And so we'll talk about that in a second here. But after things closed down Sunday, we did show the movie, right? Like there was 2 chances for 2 different opportunities to see Flash 1 and Flash 2.
Yep.
And meanwhile, we're staying in the freaking most beautiful hotel you've ever imagined. Not the Airbnb down the street. Like the owner went out of her way just like to say, this is a beautiful hotel. I happen to own it. Stay here. And so it was not that many people there. Like in the rooms, I think there was one thing that happened when we walked in that Angelique Benham was a part of, where I saw this really stoic, trim, older man. And he was, wearing like a white shirt tucked in, maybe a bow tie and an apron. And he looked like the the older gentleman from Twin Peaks that Dale Cooper encountered that is like a apparition. And so I come down and I poke him, and it's just like, oh, thank God. He didn't think that was too funny. But Angelique did. And she goes, I thought he might not be real. Thanks for doing that. I had to do it. I had to poke him.
I know exactly who you're talking about. So, yeah.
And then we got to be good friends. And I said, so where do people go like after the show? And he's just like, over there, young man. That's the place. And so it turns out that the place across the street is a good time. And boy, oh boy, they really turned on the charm. And everybody was super nice. But you get the feeling that that town, it has some generational stuff happening. And it's an old Western town. Like there's certain things I saw happening that no bar would ever allowed, especially in Seattle or Portland. And it's because the city is just like, these guys have nothing else to do. Like if we don't let them burn off a little steam here, there's like 4 places open. And so, and this is what the main karaoke and bartender told me, just like, we have to do it that way. Like people look the other way. And then we just kind of monitor ourselves after hours. So that was really cool to look at. Wallace, Idaho. Is it Wallace, Montana? Wallace, Idaho, I think, is a lot like that. And it reminded me a little bit of Wallace mixed with Tombstone, Arizona.
Accurate. Very accurate. Yes, it does definitely have a Tombstone vibe.
And it has an underground. So what does Henry Franzoni talk about? The underworld. This place has got like Paris-style catacombs that you could like network through. Lord knows why. Ashley, Tartaria. So it could very well be something like that. I couldn't get access. I was greasing the wheel with $1 bills. I couldn't get anywhere. So maybe next time, Baker City.
Next time, A Flash of Beauty, Part 2. Baker City.
Yeah, if they'll have us back. They may have everybody else. But anyway, we had a good time. And then we ended the show without a Lazy Susan, which was your mistake, I believe, because I brought the first one. And we did a Knights of the Roundtable. And I had my GoPro. And we got a lot of good video out of that. And there was some really interesting, very thoughtful conversation. There were some really deep things that were said. Some things we even said off the record, like, this is off the record, have you? So that's the way I've always wanted a conference to go. You know what I mean? Around, it wasn't a campfire, it was a banquet table, but it felt campfire-esque. And that was it. We ended up leaving that day, and everyone went their separate ways. And that was Sunday by 11. And you went up to get an interview, and I was originally supposed to go. That was the plan, but there was a storm of brewing.
Yes. Everyone was like staggering because wasn't it Sam Chandler who was like giving reports from the road?
Yeah.
I think
there wasn't even
coming.
There was a storm a coming weather-wise, but there was a storm of brewing on the internet, and that pulled me down back up Highway 84 to Boring, Oregon. Now, I've never been to Boring. It turns out it's not boring at all. And the reason I was headed there, should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So let me wipe my brow here. Just the facts, Jill, just the facts. So
I want the truth.
I'm going to get it, and we're going to make it happen. Last week we did a little bit of a contest because I wanted the truth as to what was going on with this FLIR footage. And I really wanted it. I mean, folks, I wanted it to be real. Like, I was trying to convince Brett at one time and just like, no, the frame rate's not being messed with. They really move like that. And it's compelling. It's compelling. But it wasn't good enough. It was really that James Mason comment, or Dave Mason comment from Skinwalker Ranch, who I spoke with yesterday, actually. And it was his comment that said, I build FLIR units. I bet my multi-million-dollar contracts that's a fake, and here's why. It has to do with the shadowing on the shoulders. He goes, that's not normal. And the fact that they're doing it on a secondary camera tells me that they know what they're doing as far as like guiding people elsewhere separate from the truth.
Yeah.
So the one person that I have had a back and forth with that believe certain things about hoaxes or about recreations or about misidentified stuff is Cliff Barrickman. Like we've had a back and forth about the London tracks, and I still have questions. He has none. It's fake. It's done. Don't waste your time. And I still have questions, just like with this. So it's the same thing, but Cliff has a memory like a cast iron trap, right? Like he locks down Bigfoot nerd stuff. And so I texted him. And so the challenge was if you could figure out if this was a hoax or this was not what it seemed, Bigfoot on FLIR, then what was it? And how was it? And who was responsible for it? Because according to the producer and the director of Expedition Bigfoot, who I sat with, he said this is a very elaborate production. And it took some time to do this. And maybe it took a little less time than we all thought, because it turns out, according to Cliff, that he recognized this as something he saw privately. He said, you can't find it on the internet because they edited it out for whatever reason. So what you're seeing should have been in the show because it's really interesting looking. But like you and I talked, he said, Hollywood is really dumb. Like they put in stuff that you're just like, what are you doing? Like you spent all that money on that and you're going to use this footage? Mm-hmm. Well, folks, that's what they did. So this is the truth. And you can go look it up. Season 1, episode 4, Unsolved Mysteries, no Robert Stack. This is, what is his last name? Ferrer?
Farino or something?
Yeah, Dennis Farino. So it was a new 90s version of Unsolved Mysteries. We're cool. It's 90s now, 94 actually. So they put Dennis Farina, in the trench coat. And so it was episode 4, and it's all about Peter Byrne on Mount Hood, I believe the Eastern Slope, which is exactly where his research was with Henry and John Glickman during that time. And the premise is that, hey, we use FLIR systems in the big cities, but what happens if we take them in the woods and a big game hunter and an ascot tries to find a Bigfoot? And that was what they were showing. And so in the footage, you see, now this is the leaked footage that was put out, that I got permission to put out, that Isdal put out, that all these other people put out, is you see telemetry on the lower part of the screen and the upper part. It's not good. You can't really see the numbers clear, but they match up to the point where when I stabilize the camera and motion blur, you could see the telemetry matched. And not only that, then they show the picture of the Bigfoot, or they show the video and color of the Bigfoot in the same terrain. And the last little smoking gun is that Larry Lund, who's still with us, was on set. He remembers the whole thing. And so there's your provenance. That's kind of like enough for me. Now, the only thing, folks, that could be real about the scenario that this is a Bigfoot is that they tried to hide the fact that they accidentally filmed a Bigfoot. And then they put in this other narrative of this escaped prisoner. So 1% chance in my book.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying the we got something, now we gotta
hide it.
Get the first AD out. We gotta get a new call sheet and put a new actor in. We got audition. Yeah, that's too much work. Too much work.
Well, see, but that's interesting what you said, because you're looking at it from a producer standpoint. What would it take, Jill, logistics, to cover that up? And talk about the system, talk about the weird Hollywood types that make these kind of mistakes. Why would you leave out the best footage of about a Bigfoot show?
There's not enough time to even.
But is it personality type of naivete?
Personality is, everyone wants to be a director. Everyone wants to have their input and whatnot. And sometimes at the end of the day, you have to go with story. Maybe there was something about the footage that didn't fit the way they wanted to tell the story ultimately.
Right.
Maybe they thought they'd sit on it for a future episode. or something. I
Oh,
mean, that's always a possibility too. We don't
I didn't
know.
even think of that. Like,
Yeah.
eventually, we're going to use this money shot. If
Yeah.
Dennis Farina can get his act together and we can get a season 2, we're going to use this. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay. I
just
could
my
buy that.
thoughts. Yeah.
It's really, I mean, and just to watch the dismissive look on Cliff's face, it's just like you wouldn't believe what the kind of stuff they cut out of Finding Bigfoot. It's just like they're not smart. Like
Yeah.
they're like 22, 25 years old. They're not interested in the subject matter. It's a gig. They don't even believe it. They think that this, like, we got to get the shot so we can get the
Hmm.
shot.
Yeah.
And I experienced a little bit of that myself, but generally there's a camaraderie when you're kind of out in the woods, like fending for yourself. And in this case, maybe there was as well. But for the most part, it was a story. They had a story arc about an escaped prisoner running through Mount Hood wilderness, and they show this clear image of what looks like a tall, skinny man booking through the woods, and all the telemetry data lines up. So there's
Hmm.
your stunt man. And then in the secondary shot, they show the FLIR footage, most likely, but it's in color. And it's like, him walking through the woods.
In a Wookiee costume.
Ah, ah. I can't do it. Um, so
Yes.
anyway, that was the takeaway with that one. And then things started to get out of hand a little bit, because now we put this message out about what had happened. I went live the next 2 days later, and in between the point where Cliff won the Wood Watcher and Sunday morning, that was Saturday, or no, that was Monday morning, I went live. On Sunday, the How to Hunt guys were just like, well, other people are leaking it. We got to leak. And they think it's real. Like, they still are pushing this narrative that it's real. And so maybe I'm wrong. I mean, there's room for it. In my opinion, there's that 1% chance. But to not like actively share the season 1 episode 4 is strange to me, because it's an interesting story. Like, it's interesting. It's still not real. It's a recreation, but it's Peter Byrne in Mount Hood during this whole fantastic time with Henry Franzoni, but nobody even knows what the John Glickman and Peter Byrne study is.
But you know
No.
what, Joe? I mean, the people who are doubling down on the footage but don't want to address the additional footage that you put out, and the detective work you did, and like in Cliff's input, for to double down on, no, this is the real thing, this is it, because I was told so. They're doing themselves and their audience a disservice, in my opinion. It's like, lean into it. Let's take a look at this. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is supposed to be fun, and I hope people get the idea that I don't want to be the guy that debunks stuff. I want to have fun experiencing stuff. The only reason I did it, God's honest truth on Cooper's Soul, is that I thought it was real. I wanted it to be real. I was like in my Mulder phase. Like, if we show this to the world, then they won't be able to find it. And it will suddenly be more real. It'll be that 99% real to me instead of like the 50-50.
But
And Dave
someone
Mason will be
could have
wrong.
come forward. And I think that was brilliant to put it out there, because all it takes is, speaking of X-Files, the one, in the shadows, the guy coming out smoking the cigarette, like, I shot that footage. It was me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You just
Yeah.
don't know, but it's like, let's solve the mystery together. And that was what I really appreciated, that you got everyone to take a closer look and kind of put on their Bigfoot detective hats and do the work. And Cliff just did it better, so he won a Wood Watcher.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting just to say this, that, Cliff and I go back to 2005, 2006 timeframe when he spoke at my first conference in Eugene, Oregon. And we've gone back and forth, like, we sparred a little bit over stuff. But it's just like, at the end of the day, we're just like, hey, man, it's all good. And you just kind of hug it out. So, big deal. This is supposed to be fun. And as Cliff says, it's okay to be wrong. And so just move on. Like, people make mistakes. And, if we're wrong, though, as Ron Moorhead says, you could be right. And so tell us how we're wrong, and let's have a more deeper discussion about how we're wrong, and just show me how you're right. So it's all good. There's no name calling or craziness here. And I can't imagine being that way to the point where you are going to be looking into a magic monkey and all upset. Like, what a turnoff for the women in your life to be that way. I can't imagine having a man in your life getting all sad about how his magic monkey isn't real anymore. This would be really depressing.
But you know what? But here's the thing: is enough people have had encounters, have had sightings, they've had these experiences. It doesn't matter what that footage is, because at the end of the day, it comes down to what people have personally experienced. And you kind of got to meet people where they are. Some people haven't had the same experiences or encounters.
Yeah, right. There's people that have just seen a physical thing, and then we show them a box of light that was just a second ago an orangutan. And they're like, I'm not ready, dude.
Yeah.
And so,
well,
we just kind of...
We'll be here when you are.
Right. Put
ready
it in
to have that conversation. Let's go.
And who else said something I think it was Angelique. She said, believing is seeing, which it can't be said enough, because whatever's going on here, Jill, is waiting for you to engage it from the fact that it exists. So that sounds like faith. That sounds like belief. But, like, why did Wendy fly? It's just like she believed enough. Is that what it was? Is that why Wendy flew in Peter Pan? Was it belief? Or did she... No, Willy Wonka, they had to burp. There's different...
No, then I got this, like that Michael Jordan, I believe I can fly. That's not...
Jordan.
That's not isn't that from Space Jam or something? I don't know.
Oh, real quick, I digress. Did you hear about the Cheeto that is in the shape of Michael Jordan that's going on the auction for $100,000? Go look it up. It looks more like Patty, doing like a cross stride. If you ever find a Cheeto that looks like Patty, or one that, whatever shape you think it is, I'm just saying, you could be retiring.
And just to piggyback on that, and then we'll get back on track. But Ronnie LeBlanc made a post on Facebook, and it was like the wood paneling that had kind of a weird Bigfoot looking shape, and someone put a frame around it. And it completely triggered me. And I need to go into our storage closet and dig out all my like childhood and like old family photo albums. At my old house growing up in Seaside, Oregon, we had this like rough wood, like very rustic wood, like walls. And there was this one area next to, like, just left of the TV on the wall there. And I always thought of it as a screaming Sasquatch. It's like where a branch was, like there was a knot. So when they turned it into a board, it's just like this big hole, and then like kind of two eyes. And just the way it was, I was always like, oh, the screaming Sasquatch, it's a Bigfoot. And then when he saw that, I got triggered, and someone's like, you gotta find it. So.
I'm just Nancy's comment here. She's obviously a Peter Pan aficionado, and said the actual quote is faith and dust plus pixie dust. And so I don't know if that counts. You can grab a pixie stick at the 7-Eleven and bring that in your place. But some of you guys got different versions of pixie dust that you do in the back alley. That'll make you see all sorts of things. So faith and trust plus pixie dust. Go for it, folks. So yeah, believing is seeing. And I also want to bring up this rubber band talisman that Ashley Stinnett broke up, that Ashley Stinnett was talking about. And it was a really interesting story about when she worked at the penitentiary or the prison. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I want Ashley, she's going to start speaking more and more. It's an incredible story about how prisoners basically use a simple rubber band to kind of snap them out of a moment of transition, we'll say. And it's a very real conversation that psychologists were having with these prisoners. And it just left an impression on me to the point where I had to write it down. And I think it's worth mentioning, because now you're going to see Ashley on here say, what the hell is he talking about? In fact, there's a couple of people on here, they're saying, I don't know this footage. What are we talking about with this footage? So if you go back to A Flash of Beauty, just go inside the lives, just go inside the one called Big Footage, and it'll walk you through the steps. You'll see the comments. I encourage you to go look at the comments in Big Footage, the name of the Olympic Strange Day episode, or go watch the live, and then you'll see the breakdown of this thermal footage from season 1, episode 4, with Dennis Farina, and case closed. So that's my little diatribe about the Big Footage something.
Something.
Something. There's a couple announcements here. We actually didn't do a live show last night. We had 2 more shows at the Anchor Tavern. Still go check out the Anchor Tavern in Port Townsend, Washington. Every 3rd Wednesday we were there doing a live show, and they went from 7 to close. Great establishment, totally haunted. We talked about everything from Sasquatch to past lives to ghosts to UFOs, abductions. And but then we got an offer that I couldn't refuse. And so next Thursday, with Nancy Fry and Alex Liberato, who is in episode 1 of Olympic Strange Days, him and his father were abducted, local to Port Townsend, we're actually going to be meeting at a place, my old haunt, where the first podcast I've done in a castle happened to be in Port Townsend. And the castle is back. So Olympic Strange Days live every first Saturday of the month. So Better Day, Haunted Castle, and we're bringing our A game as far as production value here. So we need a couple of months to bring the resources together. I'll put this out there right now. If you can donate things like lighting, something of production value, some new camera equipment, stuff like that, tax write-offs, you can get a hold of me at olympicstrangedays.com, and it's all going to go back into the castle. And eventually there'll be some members only paywalls for this show. And if you've donated stuff like that, just consider yourself, coming to the castle and doing the thing with us. And so what could go wrong? 7 to close, Haunted Castle, Manresa Castle. And it's a very strange place, like super haunted, real haunted, and right in the heart of Sonia Zohar's Bigfoot activity, and Rich Germeau up the way. So Bigfoot, ghost, what could go wrong? Every coming in May.
Sounds like the perfect combo.
Let's go. Yeah, so that was pretty exciting. The other thing too I wanted to mention, Jill, is that Jack is back. What do I mean?
Oh.
So Jack, Sack. Yeah. He, you know him from A Flash of Beauty Part 2. He saw the deer change into a Bigfoot, folks. And he's got the bib overalls, and he's got the screen presence of mine. He gave me a peace pipe, like a smoking pipe, like a real pipe. And then he gave me these antlers with these stones. Like they look like mini arrowheads, like tiny, tiny arrowheads for like a little tiny person maybe shot the arrows. And so we had some weird stuff happen at the house where these were. Mainly my computers the plugs would get turned off and pulled out every time that peace pipe was in the bedroom. And so when I left to Baker City, I was meaning to bring those with us because we wanted a trigger object to be there. And I had put a tape recorder in with the peace pipe the night before and heard, Al Moon style, 2x4s flying and flipping over in the locked fruit cellar. It made no sense. It would be a giant rat like from Princess Bride. It wasn't that, right? So when I left the peace pipe on top of the shelf, and Cooper comes in and looks up at that And so Erin's in the other room, and she hears growling. Well, Cooper doesn't growl. He's just not he's not wired like that. And he's growling up that peace pipe. And of course, she put it in the fruit cellar. And so when I came home, Jill, the computer was unplugged. Now, not my computer that I had, but my TV and the surge protector were turned off. And this is like a, I don't know, $70 surge protector with a really big hardwired, glowing button that you kind of have to really press.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what's happened every time. So that was 3 times a charm. And so we asked Jack Sack about this. And Jack said, oh, yeah, those are from the gifts are from the Stick Indians. And I was like, whoa, we got a party going on here. So we have some tests to do with Jack eventually in his Stick Indian ways.
We need to get you out to his gifting area where we filmed with him, and just some of that area in general. It's different. There's definitely, you can feel it up there. It's not your average stroll in the park or in the woods.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, Jack wouldn't have it any other way, folks. If you know what I mean. He also, I don't know if what area is he in? Like, is he near Tillamook?
Hey, Brett, jump
I
in.
mean,
He's
I can't remember where he's at.
More Lincoln City area. Lincoln.
Yeah.
Coast, yeah.
Someone just asked a question here. Hilton Whittlewood, a strange brow history. Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's been replaced by something better, I guess, which is the Flash of Beauty universe. It's still the same kind of larger perspective, looking at all these issues, and now this Olympic strangeness that will not leave me. And so we're looking into a global mystery as well as kind of like a strange active area, which is the Olympic Peninsula, Olympic Mountains. That's what's up there, Hilton. Cool name, by the way. Mm-hmm. Any other statements out of Jill there? Anything in the chat you want to go through?
I'm just trying to think. What else do we need to cover? There's so much going on.
I should mention that the show that we canceled was going to be about Stick Indians to some degree, which gets into like the little people. And so First Nations people, and Jill and Brett, I would be curious as to what knowledge you've gotten over the years, especially with part 3, if they ever bring this up, because they talk very little about the little people or the Stick Indians. But it's the way I've heard is they have just as many stories, but they're twice as reluctant. Now, why is that? Do you have any idea? I don't really know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but we're on it. We'll find out.
So we did cancel a live regarding elves, and we were going to get into actual elf witnesses, not just Stick Indians, like what you see with the ears and the long hair, the Nordic look, like from Lord of the Rings style. Well, that exists, at least to our guest that we're going to have. And this is what he said. He said this is very close to what he has seen. And I said, out of all the images, I did not. He said, well, the regalia is wrong, but that very like perfect, chiseled looking kind of grayish, bluish, I believe he said the hue is right. He definitely didn't say anything was wrong about the ears. So those all stand to reason. And I believe this was also within the realm. And it looks like this might be a pan. I see what looks to be horns above the ears. And so we were going to get into that. We still are going to do it down the road. But, I was always under the assumption, Jill, that elves were tiny. They're not necessarily tiny. Like they can be, just as tall as us. And I didn't know that. Now, as he's getting ready to come on this live stream that we had to cancel yesterday, he's actively getting apports on his property.
Yeah. He
Like
has a lot of activity.
Strange stuff. Like,
yeah.
You remember the good old days, D-Dog? Like, these are like as weird as what we got. at the Owl Moon, but the first one was like set in the middle of his chair, and it's like a piece of wood that is engraved with like some kind of scroll work and painted in, and it's like it has this weird kind of patina to the outside of it, like some wear. And then day 2, he gets like a mouse delivered kind of in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
So very reminiscent of what happened here with the apports there. And heck, maybe we had elves. Maybe we had an elf problem. Do you leave out Keeblers if you have an elf problem?
Yeah, did you find signs or evidence of cookies near the trees?
Right. Maybe just get yourself some peanut butter and a mousetrap if it's a problem, and you might not have an elf problem. I don't know. Maybe that's gnomes. We do have some shows coming up in the minutes left here, Jill, including Mount
Yes.
Hood, Oregon. Now you may be in attendance. You're on your way out of town, but it sounds like you're going to try to fit it in.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Well,
First
that
annual Sasquatch Festival. You
that's news
betcha.
to us.
You betcha.
Okay. So we're happy to have you, of course. Mike and I were going to try to do this all our own, but now we have the power team with us. That's coming here on the 11th and the 13th. That's going to have some heavy hitters from, the world of looking at this through a Gigantopithecus lens. It's an interesting conversation to have, and they certainly talk about the evidence there, but we're going to bring the weird. And if you want to bring the weird even hotter and heavier, you can do that. It's coming up May 16th and 17th in the UFO capital of Oregon, at least, at the McMenamins Hotel. And we're looking to be there in some capacity. We try to be there. It's a good time. It's a free time. It really is, like, to show up and enjoy it. Mostly it's free, like the parade, totally free.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go see the speakers, I think you need to get tickets now because you've got 3 big guests. You've got Lou Elizondo from the Pentagon, wrote the book Imminent. You've got Jeremy Corbell from Bob Lazar, and from Patient 17. If you haven't seen that documentary of his, that's his best one. And then you have the king of late night, the king of investigative journalism, Mr. George Knapp. He'll show up in a Hawaiian shirt, Tommy Bahama style, and blow your mind. Check it out. And then, of course, Phenomicon. We've talked a lot about that. You can still get tickets to that. And then I should say that on April Fool's Day is kind of a joke on you, I guess. I will be on Coast to Coast from midnight to 2, and we will be talking about the strange connection between Sasquatch and the supernatural. Everything we discussed tonight. It should be a good time. I haven't been on in a while, and so we're going back into the Coast to Coast.
Going back.
Going
Nothing
back.
wrong with that.
So that's what's going on. I will be there's a video coming out tomorrow for the live people. Let me just say briefly, Olympic Strange Days is still happening every Friday, just like we said. Thursday it popped for the members. And this episode, entitled Them, is ready for you tomorrow at 7 a.m. as far as I know, with guest Lee Strauss, who is from a podcast out of Tacoma called Element 115. And he looks into not only the mystery of Bigfoot, but everything else. And he's out in the woods with me for 24 hours. And we capture something on camera. First of all, we nearly capture my demise. But before that or after that, I can't remember which. Actually, it was before. We capture a magnetic anomaly take place at a holy site, like super holy site. Like Sonia Zohar would go there and do ceremony, holy site. And it's a legit phenomena. Like we try to debunk it, we can't. And we get it twice in 2 different areas. So for that, it was a lot of fun. Lee's a super gracious guy. We had a good time. Actually experienced the woods with us for 24 hours in a hot spot.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're muted there, Clark Kent. Coming back to me.
Are we still live?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why we thought you were coming on.
Well, okay. Somebody in the chat said troll alert, so maybe they're talking about me. And if they are correct, and they win the prize for tonight, which is a pine cone from a Flashy Beauty 3. No, from Voices in the Wilderness. Just reach out to us. I think that was Renee. I am actually here for a reason. I didn't mean to interrupt though, so I can show myself the door.
Well, it's too late now. You've already
You made an entrance.
Yeah.
No, there's a thing, Tobe. There's like a thing in your room.
View?
You see it flying around?
It was like a gnat, a fruit fly.
Wow.
An orb?
It could be a fairy, so be careful. Because we were just talking about fairies.
It's a moth.
Is it a moth?
Mm-hmm. To the flame.
Be nice. Be nice. I'm just in here to talk about our next video, which you may have noticed that we haven't dropped anything since Tish, and then Joel before. We've been kind of like slow in putting videos out and interviews out because we're making like 13 movies right now, it feels like. But we've got a big one coming out, and so I just wanted to talk about it real quick. And it is starring Adam and Mark from Alabama, and this one is a good one. You guys are gonna really love it. It's going to be dropping. I'm not exactly sure what day it's going to be dropping, but it's going to be within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled. We filmed this in Alabama back in December, and this is a puzzling one. Adam is still reporting to Jill just to this very day, right? I don't want to give any spoilers away, but
just yesterday.
Yeah, he is having
he's
reports.
Ramping up. Yeah.
He's seeing something strange every single day. And so we were just there for a few hours. We saw remarkable evidence, some of which has made it into the video that we'll be dropping, including a couple of photos of some interesting evidence and some of the stick structures that we found in the woods behind his house. So, this is definitely a new one you guys are going to love. So I just wanted to come on and tease that one. And I have nothing else to say.
Well, just the facts. That's good.
The facts.
Just the facts.
And I always want to thank everybody for joining and coming out and watching and participating and leaving comments. And we love this community so much. We're so thankful and blessed and happy to have you guys. So
anybody have any comments here about my lighting? I want to know this is better than the blue lighting, right?
Yeah,
I like this lighting, Tobe. This is
like this.
Yeah.
Simple, like the shadow work.
Yeah.
I really, like I said before we went live, I think it really ties into kind of the Olympic Strange Days color and theme.
Do I need to rebrand it to an orange flame?
It's understated. It's very.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, it's good.
Can we get, like, my grandma used to have one of these things that sat in front of the Christmas tree.
Oh yes, the wheel, the pin
wheels.
Wheel.
Can we get you one of those? Can we find one of those?
I am the kind of guy that has Christmas lights out, like the multicolored old school ones from the 50s, not with the LED, but the old fashioned bulbs, which have been brought back, thank God, along with plastic straws. And you can put it in the smoking section. I love to put those out like where I'm going to have like a cigar or a smoke or something like that at the house, like a little ambiance outside with the Christmas lights and maybe like a tiki man and a Bigfoot sculpture. So yeah, I'm all about Christmas all year long, folks, and you should be too.
Of course, yes. 'Tis the season to be jolly.
'Tis the season.
Right? There's no excuse not to be jolly every single day.
Every single day. The lighting you were using before, the dark blue and stuff, or you were just kind of shrouded in the darkness.
Like you know what that means?
It felt like you were like a karaoke DJ in the back booth or something. Like, okay,
hey now,
next up.
A disco ball wouldn't be such a bad thing either. Yeah. Boots,
nice.
Boots and pants.
Oh, I see Mike Ferry in the audience there. Let's see what Mike wrote. Mike wrote, we have those old school lights. Oh, cool. He's got the old school lights. Yeah. I think the supernatural and I think Bigfoot being a part of that world, if you have the electronics, the old school electronics to research this stuff, not just the lights, but the old equipment, I think you're going to have better luck. That's just me speaking. It could be true, could not be true, but definitely invest in it all.
Yeah. And by the way, just to add to Mike actually owns every single light you can possibly imagine because he's a cinematographer. So not only does he have old school lights, but he has the latest and greatest, the new school lights, the latest technology, LEDs, and all kinds of stuff. Brighter than the sun. I'm not making that up. It's true.
All right. Well, hands down, I'm out of here. And I guess we'll see these folks next Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Get up early, 7 a.m., right, guys, for the next drop of OSD entitled Them. Get to know Les Stroud, get to know the Olympic Peninsula. The only way to get to know it, in the woods, overnight. What's going to happen? Well, you'll have to tune in to see it, share it, and get on down. That's
Real
it for
quick,
me.
Tobe, you said Les Stroud. I just want to make sure everybody knows this is.
Oh, I always get it mixed up with, sorry, Lee. Yeah, Lee Strauss.
Lee
Yeah.
Strauss.
Yeah.
Les, if you're out there, we love you, but
right.
This is not.
Well, I almost brought him in with a celebrity, so you
Yeah.
know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. You guys, thanks again.
All right, that's it for us. Good to see you, Jill. Good to see you, Brett, and we'll see you in a couple days, maybe.
See you later,
Okay.
alligator.